The courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, but to Maya Jackson, it reeked of injustice. She stood at the defendant's table, her hands trembling not from fear but from a rage so deep it felt like it could crack the earth. 3 days ago, she'd been a nobody, just a community organizer in a small Ohio town, until a viral video of her being shoved out of this very courthouse by a cop named Officer Daniel Hargrove set the internet ablaze. She wasn't here to beg. She was here to fight. The judge's gavel hovered. The crowd held its breath, and Hargrove's sneer burned into her from across the room. This wasn't just a trial. It was a war. Maya, a 34-year-old black woman with a voice that could rally a crowd or silence a room, had spent years advocating for fair housing in her town of Crestwood. Her latest battle was against a shady development company, Crestwood Properties, accused of pushing black families out of their homes to make way for luxury condos. She'd uncovered documents, emails, contracts, even recorded conversations that proved the company's discriminatory practices. But when she tried to present her evidence at a public hearing, Hargrove, a hulking white officer with a history of complaints, had grabbed her arm, called her trouble, and dragged her toward the exit. The video, shot by a bystander, showed her struggling, her voice steady but fierce. "I have a right to be here." The clip exploded online, racking up millions of views and igniting protests. Justice for Maya trended for days. Now, in this packed courtroom, she was fighting not just for herself but for every black family displaced, every voice silenced. The stakes couldn't be higher. Hargrove sat in the gallery, his badge gleaming, his smirk daring her to lose. The judge, an older white man named Harold Grayson, looked impatient, his fingers drumming on the bench. The developer's lawyer, a slick suit named Richard Vance, leaned back with the confidence of a man who'd never lost. Maya's lawyer, a pro bono advocate named Sarah Klein, whispered, "Stay calm. We've got this." But calm was a luxury Maya couldn't afford. Not when Hargrove had lied in his report, claiming she'd resisted arrest and disrupted proceedings. Not when Vance had already tried to discredit her, painting her as a radical activist stirring up trouble. Not when the judge had barely glanced at her evidence before allowing Hargrove to testify first. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hargrove began, standing at the witness stand, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "I was simply doing my job." This woman was out of control, shouting, refusing to leave when asked. "She's a danger to public order." The words hit like a slap. Maya's jaw tightened, her nails digging into her palms. She wanted to scream that he was lying, that he'd targeted her because of her skin, her voice, her refusal to bow. But Sarah's hand on her arm kept her grounded. For now, the crowd murmured. A few reporters scribbled furiously. Outside, protesters chanted, their voices muffled through the thick courthouse walls. Maya felt their energy, their anger, fueling her. She wasn't alone, but in this moment, she felt like the only one standing on a cliff's edge. Vance stood, adjusting his tie. "Your Honor, Ms. Jackson's actions show a clear pattern of defiance. She's not here for justice, she's here for attention. We move to dismiss her claims and bar her from further proceedings." The room spun. Dismiss her claims? Bar her? This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the families she'd promised to fight for. Mrs. Carter, who'd lost her home of 30 years. The Thompsons, who'd been offered pennies for their property. The kids who'd grown up in Crestwood, now scattered to cheaper, crumbling neighborhoods. If she was silenced, they were silenced. "Your Honor," Maya said, her voice cutting through the room before Sarah could stop her. "I'm not here for attention. I'm here because Crestwood Properties is stealing homes from black families, and Officer Hargrove tried to stop me from exposing it. I have proof, documents, recordings, witnesses. You can't let them bury this." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Jackson, you'll speak when addressed." Hargrove chuckled softly, loud enough for her to hear. That sound smug, untouchable lit a fire in her chest. She locked eyes with him, her stare a promise. "I'm not going anywhere." Sarah stood quickly. "Your Honor, we request to present Ms. Jackson's evidence." The officer's actions were not only excessive but racially motivated. as supported by his disciplinary record and the video evidence. Grayson sighed, glancing at his watch. I'll allow it, but keep it brief. Maya's heart pounded as Sarah pulled out the folder, hundreds of pages of damning evidence. Emails from Crestwood Properties executives joking about clearing out the riffraff. Audio of a manager admitting they targeted black neighborhoods because they're less likely to fight back. Testimonies from displaced families, their stories raw and heartbreaking. As Sarah began reading the first email aloud, Vance objected. This is irrelevant, Your Honor. These documents are unverified, and Ms. Jackson's behavior in this court proves she's unreliable. Unreliable, Maya snapped, unable to hold back. I'm unreliable because I'm black and loud? Because I won't let you erase us? You want to talk about unreliable? Let's talk about Hargrove's 3 suspensions for excessive force, all against people who look like me. The courtroom erupted. Spectators gasped, some cheering, others shouting objections. Grayson banged his gavel. Order. Ms. Jackson, one more outburst, and I'll have you removed. Hargrove leaned forward, his smirk gone, replaced by a glare that could have burned through steel. Maya didn't flinch. She'd faced worse years of microaggressions, doors slammed in her face, whispers that she was too much. But this was her moment. Sarah continued, her voice steady but urgent, laying out the evidence piece by piece. The crowd hung on every word, the air thick with tension. Reporters typed frantically, their phones buzzing with notifications. Outside, the chants grew louder. No justice. No peace. Then, a court clerk slipped into the room, moving quickly to the judge's bench. She whispered something, her face pale. Grayson's expression shifted surprise, then unease. He leaned back, rubbing his temple, then said, We'll take a brief recess. Ms. Jackson, counsel, remain here. The room buzzed with confusion as spectators were ushered out. Hargrove stayed, his eyes darting between Maya and the judge. Vance looked smug, as if he'd already won. Maya's stomach churned. What now? Were they about to shut her down for good? During the recess, Sarah leaned close. You're doing great, Maya. They're rattled. Keep pushing. I'm trying, Maya whispered, her voice cracking. But what if they don't listen? What if this is all for nothing? It's not, Sarah said firmly. You've already made them squirm. That's power. When the judge returned, his face was unreadable. He cleared his throat. Ms. Jackson, I've just been informed of an unusual development. You've received a call. From the White House. The room froze. Maya blinked, certain she'd misheard. The White House. Grayson nodded, almost reluctantly. They've requested to speak with you directly. Now. Whispers exploded among the remaining spectators. Hargrove's face drained of color. Vance's jaw dropped, his pen slipping from his hand. Maya felt like she'd been punched in the chest, her breath shallow. The White House? Why? How? The clerk handed her a phone, and Maya's hands shook as she took it. Hello? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ms. Jackson, came a calm, authoritative voice. This is Valerie Chen, senior advisor to the president. We've been following your case. Your courage has reached us, and we want to ensure your voice is heard. Can you tell us exactly what's happening? Maya's knees nearly buckled. She glanced at Hargrove, at Vance, at the judge, all watching her like she'd just pulled a grenade's pin. This wasn't just her fight, Anna Maria, it was national. She took a deep breath, her voice steadying. I'm in court, trying to expose a company that's been displacing black families. Officer Hargrove assaulted me to stop me from speaking out. I have evidence, but they're trying to silence me. Chun listened as Maya poured out the story, the documents, the families, the video, the lies. When she finished, Chun said, We're with you, Ms. Jackson. The president has taken a personal interest. Expect support. The call ended, and Maya handed the phone back, her heart racing. The judge stared at her, his authority suddenly smaller. Hargrove's hands were clenched, his bravado gone. Vance stammered, Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Enough, Grayson snapped. We'll resume, and Ms. Jackson's evidence will be heard in full. No more interruptions. Maya felt a surge of hope, but the fight was far from over. Hargrove's glare promised retaliation. Vance was already regrouping, whispering to his team. And the evidence, though damning, had to survive a system that rarely favored people like her. As Sarah began presenting the next document, Maya's mind raced. The White House call was a lifeline, but it also raised the stakes. If she won, Crestwood Properties could fall, and Hargrove's career might end. If she lost, she'd be branded a liar, her community's trust shattered. The courtroom doors opened, and a new figure entered, a federal investigator, badge visible, sent by Chen's team. The air shifted again, heavier, electric. Maya straightened, her resolve hardening. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every family she'd promised to fight for, every injustice she'd sworn to expose. She locked eyes with Hargrove one last time. You messed with the wrong woman, she thought. The trial continued, each piece of evidence a blow against the system that had tried to crush her. Outside, the chants grew louder, the crowd swelling. Maya wasn't just fighting for Crestwood, she was fighting for a world where no one could be silenced for the color of their skin. And she was just getting started. The federal investigator's presence shifted the courtroom's gravity. His name was Agent Marcus Reed, a tall man with a quiet intensity, his suit crisp but his eyes sharp, scanning the room like he could see through lies. Maya felt a flicker of hope, but it was tempered by years of disappointment. She'd seen too many moments where justice seemed close, only to slip away. Hargrove's glare hadn't softened, and Vance, the developer's lawyer, was already whispering to his team, plotting their next move. The judge, Grayson, looked rattled, his earlier impatience replaced by a cautious deference. The White House call had changed everything, but it hadn't won the war. Sarah, Maya's lawyer, seized the moment. Your Honor, with Agent Reed present, we request immediate admission of all evidence, including the video footage and Officer Hargrove's disciplinary records. This case isn't just about Ms. Jackson, it's about systemic abuse and corruption. Vance shot up. Objection. This is a publicity stunt. The White House has no jurisdiction here, and this investigator's presence is irrelevant to the local matter at hand. Grayson's gavel hovered, but Reed spoke first, his voice low and commanding. With respect, Counselor, the Department of Justice has taken an interest in potential civil rights violations. I'm here to ensure this trial proceeds transparently. The room buzzed. Reporters typed furiously, their phones lighting up with breaking news alerts. Maya caught Hargrove's eye. Was sweating now, his bravado cracking. She allowed herself a small, private victory. You're not untouchable anymore. Sarah presented the evidence with surgical precision. The emails from Crestwood Properties were damning. Executives bragging about reshaping the neighborhood by targeting black families with lowball offers and intimidation tactics. The audio recording was even War-C manager laughing as he described how nobody cares about those people. The crowd gasped, some wiping tears, others clenching fists. Maya's heart ached for the families she'd promised to fight for, their pain now laid bare. Then came the video. The courtroom's projector flickered to life, showing the grainy but unmistakable footage of Hargrove dragging Maya toward the exit. Her voice rang out, "I have a right to be here." His response, caught faintly but clearly, was a sneered, "Not if I say so." The room erupted in murmurs. Grayson banged his gavel, but the outrage was palpable. "Your Honor," Sarah said, "this video, combined with Officer Hargrove's history of complaints, 3 suspensions for excessive force, all involving black individuals, shows a clear pattern of racial bias. We move to have his actions investigated as a civil rights violation." Hargrove's face reddened. He leaned forward, muttering something to his lawyer, who looked increasingly desperate. Vance tried to counter, claiming the video was out of context and Maya had provoked the officer. But the evidence was overwhelming, and Reed's presence made every objection feel hollow. Maya took the stand next, her pulse racing but her voice steady. She spoke of the families displaced by Crestwood Properties. Mrs. Carter, who'd raised 3 generations in her home. The Thompsons, who'd been coerced into selling for a fraction of their property's value. The kids who'd lost their community. She described the fear in their eyes, the resignation in their voices, and the fire in her own heart to keep fighting. When Officer Hargrove grabbed me, she said, looking directly at him, he wasn't just trying to remove me from a hearing. He was trying to erase my voice, our voices. But I'm still here, and so are they. The crowd erupted again, some clapping, others shouting support. Grayson's gavel was relentless, but Maya's words lingered, heavy and unshakable. She stepped down, her legs trembling but her spirit soaring. For the first time, she felt the room tilting in her favor. The trial stretched into the afternoon, each hour more grueling than the last. Vance fought dirty, questioning Maya's credibility, her motives, even her character. He painted her as a troublemaker, a professional agitator who'd fabricated the evidence for fame. Sarah countered with witness testimonies, neighbors, activists, even a former Crestwood Properties employee who'd turned whistleblower. The whistleblower, a nervous young woman named Emily, admitted she'd leaked the documents to Maya after witnessing the company's tactics firsthand. I couldn't stay silent, Emily said, her voice shaking. They targeted black families because they thought no one would care. Maya cared. She gave us hope. The courtroom was a pressure cooker now, every word a spark. Outside, the protests had grown, spilling onto the courthouse steps. News vans lined the street, cameras capturing the swelling crowd. Justice for Maya was no longer just a hashtag, it was a movement. As the day neared its end, Grayson called for closing arguments. Vance went first, his voice slick but strained. This case is about order, Your Honor. Ms. Jackson disrupted a public hearing, and Officer Hargrove acted within his authority. The claims against Crestwood Properties are speculative, driven by an activist with an agenda. Justice demands we dismiss this case. Sarah stood, her eyes blazing. Justice demands accountability. Crestwood Properties systematically targeted black families, violating their rights. Officer Hargrove used his badge to silence Ms. Jackson, a black woman fighting for her community. The evidence is undeniable: documents, recordings, witnesses, and a video seen by millions. This isn't about one woman's agenda. It's about a system that's been allowed to fail too many for too long. We ask for a full investigation into Hargrove's actions and Crestwood Properties practices, and for Ms. Jackson's right to be heard to be upheld. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over everyone. Grayson leaned back, his face unreadable. I'll take this under advisement, he said. Court is adjourned until tomorrow. Maya's heart sank. Tomorrow? After all this, another day of waiting? She glanced at Reed, who gave her a subtle nod, as if to say, keep going. Hargrove stormed out, his lawyer trailing. Vance gathered his team, their faces grim. The crowd dispersed, but the energy outside was electric: protesters chanting, signs waving, a community refusing to be ignored. That night, Maya barely slept. She sat in her small apartment, scrolling through messages of support from strangers across the country. The White House call replayed in her mind, a surreal lifeline. But doubt crept in. What if Grayson dismissed her case? What if Hargrove walked free, emboldened? What if Crestwood Properties kept profiting off pain? The next morning, the courtroom was packed to capacity. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder, cameras rolling. Protesters' chants echoed through the walls. Maya wore her mother's old scarf for strength, its faded colors a reminder of the woman who'd taught her to fight. Sarah squeezed her hand as they waited for Grayson's ruling. The judge entered, his expression grave. This case has raised serious questions about justice, authority, and accountability, he began. After reviewing the evidence, I find that Ms. Jackson's claims against Crestwood Properties warrant a full investigation. The documents and testimonies are compelling, and I'm referring this matter to the Department of Justice for further review. A cheer erupted, quickly silenced by Grayson's gavel. Maya's eyes welled up, but she held her composure. This was a victory, but not the end. As for Officer Hargrove, Grayson continued, the video evidence and his disciplinary record suggest a pattern of misconduct. I'm recommending an immediate internal affairs investigation into his actions, and he is suspended from duty pending the outcome. Hargrove's face twisted in fury. He stood, shoving past his lawyer, and stormed out, the door slamming behind him. Maya exhaled, her shoulders lighter. It wasn't everything, but it was something. Grayson turned to Maya. Ms. Jackson, your persistence has brought light to issues that cannot be ignored. This court recognizes your right to be heard. You are free to continue your advocacy without obstruction. The room exploded in applause. Maya's tears fell now, not from pain but from relief, from pride. Sarah hugged her tightly, whispering, "You did it." Agent Reed approached, offering a handshake. "The DOJ will take it from here," he said. "You've started something big." Outside, the crowd roared as Maya stepped onto the courthouse steps. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust toward her. She raised a hand, quieting them. "This isn't just my fight," she said, her voice carrying over the crowd. "It's for Mrs. Carter, the Thompsons, every family who's been pushed out. We won today because we stood together. Don't stop now, keep fighting. Keep speaking. Keep believing in justice." The crowd cheered, chanting her name. Maya felt her mother's scarf against her skin, her community's strength in her bones. Crestwood Properties wasn't done yet, and Hargrove's investigation was just beginning. But for the first time, she felt the system bending, if only slightly, toward justice. In the weeks that followed, the DOJ launched a full investigation into Crestwood Properties, uncovering a web of corruption that led to indictments. Hargrove was fired after the internal affairs probe confirmed his misconduct. Maya's community rallied, rebuilding trust and hope. She became a national figure, speaking at rallies, meeting with lawmakers, even visiting the White House to discuss housing reform. But she never forgot Crestwood, never stopped fighting for the families still there. The victory wasn't perfect. Some families never got their homes back. Hargrove supporters called the ruling unfair, sparking heated debates online. But Maya's story inspired millions, a reminder that one voice, backed by truth and courage, could shake a system to its core. What do you think? Where does justice begin? And where does it falter? Share your thoughts on right, wrong, and the fight for fairness in our communities.